Hello again. In this video I want to talk a little bit about how you listen to music, because it's very important as a musician that when you listen to music, whether it's somebody else's or your own, that you're objective about it. One of the things you need to bear in mind is just because you don't like a piece of music doesn't necessarily mean that that piece of music isn't good. It could be the case that genuinely it isn't very good, but you need to allow yourself to make differentiation between your musical taste and your appreciation of the musical quality, because it might be something that you don't particularly like. Now, if you understand it and you appreciate it, it can change your musical tastes, and then that influences how you play your own music. For example, you might think that the latest pop band that's all over the charts, you might think that they're absolutely dreadful, but if you stop and think about it, it doesn't mean that they don't have any musical ability. It's just something that's not to your taste. If they're at the top of the charts, think about how many CDs they're selling, how many downloads they're selling, how many hits they're getting on the YouTube channel, all that sort of thing. There might be a bit on the commercial side, but that doesn't mean that what they're doing is musically is wrong. It's just something that possibly isn't to your taste, so you shouldn't necessarily dismiss them as being musically bad. When you listen to music, it's important to listen objectively and to try and understand how a piece is constructed and basically how it works. Even if it's a piece that you don't like, as I say, over time you'll understand maybe a little bit more about how your particular musical taste works. If you understand how a piece that you like is constructed, what particular characteristics it has, and compare that against a piece that you don't like and what characteristics that piece has, you might understand more about how your musical taste works, and you'll understand why some songs you're very receptive to and other songs leave you cold. And by understanding how the music works and how it's built and how it's constructed and so on, it helps you to make that differentiation between is something particularly good or bad, or is it something that you like or you don't like. Because as I say, just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it isn't good. So always keep your mind as well as your ears open and be receptive to new musical styles. For example, when I first went to Musicians Institute, I was pretty much a rock, blues, metal type of player. But when I was there, I got exposed to other styles like jazz, fusion, classical and so on. And that was a good thing for a number of reasons. First off, I discovered new techniques for playing those styles, and I could adapt those, so as well as using them for those particular musical styles, I could incorporate them into other styles of playing. It helped me to understand more about how these other musical styles worked, and I could understand other musicians who played those styles of music a bit better. And lastly, just enjoyment. As my ears got tuned into these other styles of music, I enjoyed listening to them, and I went out and I actively sought out CDs from musicians and in musical styles that previously I wouldn't have entertained, and I really enjoyed listening to them, and I still do. Now personally, I've got a very, very wide musical taste now because of all the things that I've heard during my musical journey, if you like. There's a few things in my CD collection I might find a little bit embarrassing or want to hide if I know I've got people coming around, but generally speaking, I'm open to all sorts. So as long as it's not, there's certain things I just really cannot get on with. But there are an awful lot of styles of music. So if you think about it, how many styles of music are you aware of? Never mind listen to, how many are you aware of, and all the subdivisions that you get within those musical genres? For example, you hear about classical music. Classical is a very broad church. You get early music, baroque music, classical, early romantic, high romantic, the avant-garde and modern classical, a whole range of different styles, each with its own characteristics. If you get into jazz, well, there's traditional jazz like you get down in New Orleans. We get the big band jazz, modern jazz, fusion, bebop, all that sort of thing. Get into blues, but we're talking about the traditional, Delta blues, electric blues, Chicago, Texas blues, all that sort of thing. Country and western, new country, there's bluegrass, all sorts of other styles within there. Within the rock genre, we talk about rock music, we're talking about just classic rock, heavy metal, punk, AOR, that sort of thing. And then in the commercial sector, pop music, what's pop music? Pop, dance, guitar-driven pop. There's so many different styles there. Things like soul and R&B, the modern meaning of R&B as opposed to rhythm and blues. And there's all these other styles, folk music, world music styles. The list's endless. So how many of those styles of music have you listened to recently, and listened to objectively, and try to understand what's going on, what kind of chords am I hearing, and so on? There's something which fascinates me and I really enjoy is where you get a song or something that's originated in one style of music that's been sort of transformed and performed in a different style. I had a great fun at a concert a little while ago. I went to see a band called Hayseed Dixie, who do the music of AC/DC and other rock bands, but in the style of hillbilly bluegrass. Another CD I've been listening to quite a bit recently is Rock Swings by Paul Anka, which is classic rock tunes, things like Bon Jovi type songs, but arranged for a jazz big band. Really interesting thing to listen to. And something which is important to remember is that music, whatever style you listen to, is only composed of 12 notes. Those notes repeat themselves over different octaves, but whatever you listen to, it's an arrangement in one order or another of those 12 notes out of the chromatic scale. And sometimes there's more overlap than you think between different styles of music that use just those 12 notes. Now, one example that I often quote to my students is Bach's Harpsichord Concerto No. 1 in D minor, which starts off like this. So that's a piece of Baroque music. It's a harpsichord concerto. But partway through the first movement, you get a break on the harpsichord that sounds like this. And this isn't a million miles away from something you might hear being played on an electric guitar in a hard rock context. So you see, at the end of the day, music, it's just a series of notes arranged in a particular way, played with different instruments, different styles. But it's important that you keep your mind open to what's in the different styles, because all they're doing is interpreting those 12 notes in different ways. And something that's happening in one style of music might help you in playing a different style of music if you're receptive to what's in those different musical styles and you understand the techniques and so on. So, as I say, keep your mind as well as your ears open. Finally, something to bear in mind is that music doesn't have to be good in order to sell and to be commercially successful. And there's the rather frustrating converse of that just because something is good doesn't necessarily mean it will sell and be commercially successful. If you think about somebody like Steve Vai, who is musically brilliant, technically brilliant, but he doesn't have massive commercial success, particularly away from the guitar playing audience that know him really, really well and understand him. That's just one of those unfair things in life. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm suggesting that you abandon what you like and what you believe in just in pursuit of blatant commercialism. All I'm asking is that you try and understand other people's music and don't begrudge them their success. If they're selling all of those CDs and they're getting all those hits on their YouTube channel and selling all those downloads, they must be doing something right. Just keep an open mind on things and try to listen to as broad a spectrum of music as you can. Keep your mind open and feed off those other styles of music and use it to grow as a musician and to influence your own playing and your own development. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video sometime soon. Bye for now.